My name is Dominika Dobielewska. I work at Group Sustainability in Swedbank, which means that I work with sustainability questions and issues on the group level. And I'm based in Sweden. So hello from relatively gray Sweden today. I'm going to talk to you about climate transition planning and why you should do it in a nutshell. I'm going to structure this discussion or this presentation along three main questions. The first one is, what is it? What is climate transition planning? The second, why you should do it. And then I'll try to give you some advice on how to do it well. So to start with the first one, what is it? Maybe I'll start with saying that it's quite a hot topic. I think you've been just now before in Lithuania, and we've been talking about climate targets, setting GHG emission targets on your companies. You need to answer the question of how to do it. And I work in the financial sector. Climate transition planning is a very hot topic. It's a very big discussion, and it's a lot of efforts into these things. But it's also relevant for industry. It is a discussion we're having for the economy as a whole. And to talk about climate transition planning, I would like to separate two concepts. We've got transition planning and climate transition plans. So transition planning, to use the definition by the NGFS, Network for Greening the Financial System, this is an internal process that you undertake in order to deliver on your climate targets that you may have set. I think my colleague Jedre and panel participants were just talking about that now. But just also more generally to have a long-term response to manage risks associated with climate transition. So that's the process that you do internally, right? And then we've got the output of that process. That's the key product of it, climate transition plan. This is a document. It could be external, but it doesn't necessarily have to be external. In a nutshell, this is the operationalization of your strategy and your potential commitments. It answers the how. It describes what strategy you have to reach your commitments or to attack the climate change. What activities you're going to undertake, whether you have targets, what metrics you use to follow up on it, what are the governance and accountability mechanisms in your company. Now, this is often an external facing document, especially for larger organization, because it is a very nice communication tool. So it can be nicely used for external audiences like investors or shareholders or regulators to communicate on the fact that you are taking climate change into account when you're doing your business planning. But also, I think it's worth mentioning that it's quite nice for internal audiences. It helps you structure this planning tool. It's good for the organization to know where you're going, have a common narrative, have a direction, know what's coming and how to do it. And what I would also like to note is that this is a reiterative process. So it's not a one check off kind of exercise. When you do transition planning, and whether you decide on publishing an external climate transition plan or not, you need to be aware that this will come and go. As per usual, if there is a change, there is a challenge, you need to adapt for that. You're going to need to make sure that your activities that you had planned in the past are still relevant. So this reiterative thing is something to have in mind also. And an example of a climate transition plan is our own climate transition plan that Swedbank has published in January 2024. We mentioned that this is the first iteration of the plan, meaning we know that we're going to have to work more on that. This is just a high level first kind of stab at it, but we will continue working on it. And we have been working on it for quite a while. This is actually years of work that went into that document, years of planning and defining our commitments, joining various initiatives. So we have been involved in transition planning for quite a while, and we will continue to do so because it is aligned with our values, it's aligned with our vision, but also because it's just a smart thing to do for business. And that's going to be my segue for the next question. Why should we do it? Why should we engage in climate transition planning? And I work in sustainability, so I will want to highlight that we want to protect our planet. We need to make sure that that we take care of it, because the way that we do business today and we lead our lives is not really sustainable. It destroys nature, it threatens climate, it threatens ecosystem services that nature provides and that we are dependent on. And that's quite important to remember, because also we might have a problem later for our generations. We want to leave them something to work with. And these are important values and reasons for doing it. But I work at a bank, so I'm going to give you another reason for it, which is it's just smart thing to do. Again, this is something you should do for your business. It is a risk that you need to take into account. It is a change that you need to prepare for in order to stay resilient. And when we talk about resilience, we might talk about risks. And in terms of climate-related risks, this is a good way for us to understand kind of why we should engage in climate transition planning, because all of those risks related to climate change, they lead to financial impacts on our businesses. So just to give a couple of examples, we can talk about quite tangible, visible risks related to, for instance, increased severity of extreme weather events like floods or storms, but also more regular weather patterns that change, like rising mean temperatures in our regions. We've seen those hot summers, or rising sea levels that we know is an issue as well. And it's quite straightforward. If your forest burns, you don't have anything to sell, right? If your field gets regularly flooded, again, you don't have much to sell, so you have reduced revenue, but also you might probably have to pay more for insurance because this is apparently a high risk location. If your infrastructure gets destroyed in a storm, again, that's going to harm your business. So these are kind of like tangible, easy to spot and understand risks. But then we also have a whole plethora of various less direct risks that we call transitional risks. This could be policy and legal related, like increased pricing of GHG emissions or reporting obligations. I believe earlier today you talked about the CSRD and the disclosure requirements that placed on bigger companies, but that will also spin down to the smaller companies because their clients will be required to report, which means the clients will want you, if you're a smaller company, to tell them what you're doing so that they know what to report. All of that means increased operating costs for that reporting or GHG pricing. If you don't comply, you may have to pay fines simply. We've got also other risks like technology related. If we need to substitute existing products or services with lower emission options, it's going to cost us money, quite straightforward, I think. Also, market related risks, increased cost of raw materials, like for instance, energy, that's also a resource that goes under this concept. Means increased operating costs. If we are very dependent on fossil fuels, this will impact our business quite negatively in terms of financial aspects, but also changing consumer behavior. If our clients shift their preferences, we will have reduced revenue simply because maybe our products are less relevant. And that also links to this last point here, reputation. Again, people change their behaviors, and that can lead to changes in what they want to buy and the relevance of the offering that you may have, and it may even lead to the stigmatization of the whole sector. I've put here an example of palm oil industry, the picture with orangutans, because I think it's quite a clear case. A couple of years ago, you may remember there was quite a lot of talk about how we should boycott palm oil due to its very negative risks on the environment with deforestation, but also threatening populations of orangutans and other environmental and social issues. And that really did have an impact on how we procure and consume palm oil today. It's quite regulated, and it really changed the market. So that's a good example, I think, to just exemplify it. But when we have risks, we also have opportunities. And I want to highlight that because it's important that we don't stay in this kind of overwhelming negative area. There is things that we can do that we can benefit from, because those opportunities, they also lead to financial impacts, but to your benefit this time. So if you move to more efficient buildings and if you invest in that, your fixed assets will have increased value because energy efficient buildings are more highly rated. If you reduce consumption of resources, that leads to cost savings in the long term. If you're using lower emission sources of energy, you will be less exposed to future fossil fuel price increases. You may also benefit from supportive policy incentives. I think you have in Lithuania Next Generation plan, where you can get some money for the good projects, and in that way you can co-finance your future investments so that you are more resilient in the future. You can also take advantage of better financing conditions from banks, for instance, for green investments. Also, in the sphere of products and services, maybe your products today are less relevant, but that leads an opportunity to develop new products that will be more attractive for your market. Maybe that will be an alternative to meat, or some sort of service for servicing house equipment that you find a niche for. Maybe you will find access to new markets, younger generations, younger target groups. All of that can boost your revenue, maybe even give you first mover advantage for these trends, and ultimately just build a more reliable supply chain, more reliable business model, and can have a positive impact for you longer term. So it's very good for you to ask yourselves, what are the climate related financial impacts that climate change brings to your company and that you might experience, both on this risk side but also on the opportunity side. And taking all of that into account, it's not surprising that many different stakeholders will expect you to plan for transition. So if I didn't give you enough reasons to engage in climate transition for now, just know that it's coming anyways. Regulators will want that because, for instance, Lithuania may have national, or there are also supranational targets that will require businesses to adjust, to adapt their activities. So you will be impacted anyways. And they will also want to build transparency. So they will expect you to engage in this kind of planning. Moving to societal actors, we've got customers, employers, society as a whole, NGOs, and many other organizations that will also be interested in to know what you're doing on this topic. Do you know that it matters? What are you doing to address it? In a nutshell, people care, and they care increasingly. We see that consumer preferences really change, and that awareness of sustainability issues is really higher and higher, and that will affect you, and also that affects your employees. People also want to work in an organization that understands those societal big challenges that we are facing. For instance, I don't think I could work in an organization that doesn't care. If I didn't believe in Swedbank's work, I would probably try to find another job, because it's important for me. So it might also be a way to attract talent simply. And then we can also move to the fun stuff, to the financial industry. Investors, your shareholders, but also creditors will care. First of all, we are regulated as well. We do have disclosure requirements on ourselves, so we need to know, so we can have to care, but also we want to care because we have our own values, we have sense of responsibility, we have ambitions. But it's also not just reputation. This is business for us. We need to make sure that our exposures, our investment portfolios, our lending portfolios are as managing risks as well as possible. And climate change is one of those risks. So we cannot really allow ourselves to finance risky businesses that don't think of these aspects. So take our lending activities, for example. We do assess our corporate clients on their sustainability performance and on their plans. So we want to know whether they are aware what material sustainability areas impact them. Are they preparing action plans for that? Do they maybe have any targets, any goals? Do they track that? We take these assessments into account. We score our customers, and we take that into account in our decision making. So this is really important to realize that it might also impact your access to finance in the future, or already today, simply. Because remember, we also have our own climate transition plan. We have our net zero commitment. The bank has financed emissions targets on parts of our portfolio, our vision, and so on. We need to reach that as well. And for us to reach that, that means we have to engage with our clients so that they do it as well, because our impact is through our customers. So we need to do it together. So we will want to be a part of that, but we also will need you to be on board, and we want to encourage it. That's an important perspective from a bank, I think, to keep in mind. So hopefully I've given you some reasons on why you should do it. I'm gonna try to also give you some advice on how to address it, how to do it well. So I've put together some points. First of all, understand that it matters, and how it matters for you. So know what your motivation is. And if you think that climate change doesn't impact you, I would advise that you think again, because maybe you have missed something. This is a very big, overarching challenge and crisis that we all have to take care of. So there's probably some way that you need to think about it. And then, is it risk management that you want to address? Is it regulatory compliance? Do you want to attract new investors or get access to new, cheaper finance? Maybe you want to differentiate on the market with new, innovative products. Maybe there is just a value kind of thing for you. Maybe your company thinks that it's important that you engage with environmental issues, that you create a better future for the future generations, and that's just a value thing. Maybe you have set targets, like the companies that I think we're talking about, their targets before climate targets. You need to know how to reach them, right? So just know what your motivation and your goal is first, and just start doing it. I know it may sound quite overwhelming, but remember, you don't have to start with those like heavy things. You can just get small actions first, identify where are the low-hanging fruits, where is the biggest impact that I can have. Take a look at your business today. Maybe there's already some initiatives that you can leverage, that you can use to push that work forward. It's always easier than to start from scratch. Just be aware that it's a reiterative process. So we're going to come back anyway. So just start with some actions already, because it makes it easier. Also identify the right people. I think it's important to have motivated people who have the right expertise, but also feel that this is important, feel that this is needed for them. And I want to note also that working with sustainability is very rewarding, just personally, but also it's a very good career opportunity. So the topic is coming anyways, and this expertise, these tools, this knowledge will be a good thing on your CV. So it could be a win-win situation for your company, but also for you or for your employee who would work with these issues, because it's a nice career development move. And also build on your company culture. For Swedbank, for example, we did already have a strategic direction. We had a vision that we could work with. We had values, our purpose, the customer promise we had developed earlier. All of that will help you embed climate transition planning in your regular operations. Swedbank, I think, is a good example because we have a sustainable strategy. We don't have a separate sustainability strategy, but sustainability is embedded in what we do. So decision making for us takes sustainability and climate transitioning, among others, into account. So this is also a very helpful thing to remember, so that you stay in your business, stay relevant also, and have good arguments for why you should do it. Finally, and that's my last point, use the available support. There is really a lot of material available today. That could be regulatory standards that already have put like points on what the CSRD, for instance, wants you to disclose. So you can take a look at that, what will be wanted by your regulator. But there's also a number of other initiatives that have developed, knowledge hubs, frameworks for how to structure a transition plan, various tools and recommendations that you can really get help of. This is what we did. We started with reviewing everything that's available. And I will strongly encourage also to take a look what's regional for you, what is the sector-specific guidance for you, what's the region-specific guidance that can really make it much more tangible. So be aware, take a look at what's available there. And also ask us. Swedbank can help you too. We have ESG advisory. We have sustainable finance products that could be relevant for you as well. that might be worth looking at. So ask us and reach to us for support. That was my last slide.